welcome to this week's hashtag Toe to Toe. I've managed to track down Matthew Macklin. Matthew, thank you for joining us. Are you excited for Fight Week?
Yeah, really looking forward to the fight now. Public workouts, final touches, everyone's kind of, they're not going to change now. Their tactics, everything's in play, their game plans, they know what they need to do. So it's really just coming, last little shakeout, last little promotion towards the fight. So, I'm excited for all the fights now on Saturday night.
Apart from the main event, who are you most excited to see on Saturday?
I'm looking forward to see Khalid Jafari box. He's from Birmingham, undefeated world champion. I've known Khalid since he was a young kid, young schoolboy boxer. So it's great to see him and follow his progress. And also Katie Taylor as well, fighting in her first world title fight. Again, someone I know on a personal level well, and she's flying the flag for Ireland and for women's boxing. So yeah, I think she's a special talent, and I think she's making history here, isn't she?
We've got lots of tweets to get through this week, so we'll start off. Steve Parsons has asked, does Carlos Takam have a puncher's chance, or will Anthony Joshua have too much power?
He definitely has a chance. He's a good heavyweight. He's been in there with some of the top guys. He's a mandatory challenger. He stylistically could be wrong, possibly, for Anthony Joshua, but in the form that Anthony Joshua is in now, and especially coming off the performance against Klitschko, which I think he will improve quite considerably. I think that was such a good learning fight for him. And forget what a great statement it was, and 90,000 people at Wembley, and what a spectacle it was. That tells its own story. But if you take all that away and just look at it as a fight, that was an unbelievably good learning fight for him, and his confidence and his self-belief, will have gone through the roof. And I expect him to be, 10, 15, 20% better fighter. And I think Takam is a really good fighter. I just think he's catching Anthony Joshua at the wrong time.
Norman Barton has asked, does Joshua need the desire of a challenger to avoid repeating McCall v Lewis and Douglas v Tyson?
He certainly needs to. That's probably everyone's biggest worry here for him, is that he's going to take his eye off the ball or look beyond Carlos Takam. This is a huge opportunity for Takam. He has nothing to lose. That makes him very dangerous. And Anthony Joshua has the world at his feet. There's talk of, he's a superstar now, and he's just going to grow and grow and grow. Cannot afford any slip-ups. And that's the biggest. I think that's the biggest worry here for Anthony Joshua, more so even than what Carlos Takam is going to bring in, the change of opponent styles. Not really worried about that. The biggest worry for me would be that he takes his eye off the ball and looks past Takam. It's a massive opportunity for Takam. Anthony Joshua has to stay focused.
I know a lot of people are tweeting in about this, but Jez Batchelor has asked, have you ever had to deal with a late replacement for one of your fights? If so, how hard did you find coping with it?
Well, ironically, and what I just said then with regard to Joshua fighting Takam, that the biggest worry for me would be that he looks beyond it or he's not up for the fight. I was meant to box Darren Barker in 2010 in Birmingham in the September, and I'd been away in America for 8 weeks, and I was focused on Darren Barker, which was at the time seen as one of the biggest fights that could be made in Britain, and he was a real kind of 50-50 type fight. Really looking forward to it, and I think it was 10 days out from the fight he hurt his hip and had to pull out of the fight, and then they come in with I still fought for the European title, and it was against I'm not going to pronounce his name, a Georgian opponent who was big and he was strong and he had nothing to lose, but I remember on the day of the fight thinking, I'm nervous that I'm not nervous. You know what I mean? Because I knew I was the kind of fighter that when I felt threatened, I was in a fight that I could lose. It was a 50. I usually got them out of there early doors because I was that sharp, I was that quick out the blocks. Where sometimes when I was in a fight that I was a heavy favourite, I really laboured and kind of underperformed. So I remember on the night of that fight, I felt nervous that I wasn't nervous, and I almost made myself nervous. So look, I'm sure, like I said, going back to the Joshua thing, he has a change of opponent, and I don't see him giving him any trouble style-wise. It's not like it's a tricky southpaw or anything like that. He's pretty straightforward. What you see is what you get. But that was the same for me. But I just remember thinking, God, I hope. I didn't want to look past the fight. And complacency is a funny thing. It's subconscious. It creeps in without us realising it. And look, that was my biggest worry. And luckily it didn't. And hopefully, fingers crossed, it doesn't for Anthony Joshua either.
Ethan has asked, is Takam stylistically wrong for Joshua? Small, aggressive and a solid chin?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if he's wrong for him. I think Anthony Joshua's, he's boxing the World Championships, Olympic Games, European Championships. He started late, but he squeezed a lot in. In terms of experience, he squeezed a lot in his short amateur career, and professionally, he's been brought along perfectly. That fight now with Klitschko, he's just took him to another level. So, look, style-wise, he's not going to have to go looking for him. You could argue that Klitschko would have been a more difficult fight because of the, how awkward he is with his layback and his good jab and his left hand and his size. No, I don't think he's going to find Takam's style any particularly awkward, as long as he doesn't let Takam make it drag him into his type of fight. I think whatever happens, I just think that Anthony Joshua is a level above.
And moving on from the main event, you said earlier that there's loads of other great fights on the card as well. Brian Skeety has asked, Craig Richards deserves plenty of credit for stepping in to fight for the British title at 6 days' notice. Would many other fighters do the same, do you think?
I think it depends. I think because of the situation that Richards was in, he'd fought there recently. I know it was only a 4-rounder, but he's been training. He was meant to box, I think, the week before that. Then he did fight, in Belfast, only a 4-rounder. But he's physically, he's fighting fit. So he's sharp. He's been injured. It's not like he's been, he's got to make weight and he's only got a few weeks to do it and that type of thing. He's in shape. So yeah, I think if it was I think a lot of fighters, if it was the right opportunity to come along, they would do the same. Look, I think from his point of view, what's he got to lose? Well, he's undefeated. You could say he doesn't need to take chances at this stage of his career. He's a work in progress. He's still improving. That would be the reasons to turn it down. But you know what? Sometimes you get thrown an opportunity, and it's fighting on a massive pay-per-view card here at the Principality Stadium in Cardiff on the undercard of Anthony Joshua. I think a lot of fighters would have jumped at that chance.
Like you said, he's coming off a win. He's coming into the ring confident. He's got nothing to lose, really.
No, not really. I mean, he's got his undefeated record, and he might be. I'm thinking when he was probably weighing it up in his head, he's probably thinking, well, I don't need this fight yet. I've only had a week to prepare. I am fit, but mentally I'm not up for it yet. I hadn't got my head around it. But he probably stewed on it for a bit, and then got his head around it. And he fought last week. He's ready for this fight, and it's a massive opportunity for him. If he does come in here and he does win this fight against Buglione, and Buglione's not like a tricky southpaw. What you see is what you get. He comes straight ahead, walks straight forward at your hands high. What you see is what you get. So, I think he's done the right thing by taking this fight.
Will has tweeted in asking, if Buglione beats Craig Richards, how does he get on against Anthony Yarde?
I don't know, if I'm honest. I thought, I think Yarde is, in the sense that Jose Burton's a boxer-puncher. Yarde's a boxer-puncher. Obviously, he's different. He's a bit more unorthodox style-wise. He kind of has that left hand low, almost Mayweather-esque style to him. Definitely a solid hitter with the right hand. We know Buglione gets hit a lot, but he does. But you know what? He does get hit a lot, but he keeps his hands up, walks forward. He's got a big heart. So the thing with Buglione, he's always going to have to do it the hard way. Because he does get hit. I suppose Anthony Yarde's quite tricky, and he bangs quite hard. So I don't know. I think most people would probably favour Yarde because he's looked pretty impressive, and Frank Buglione does get hit. But the flip side to that, the other side of the argument is that he does get hit, but he comes through it, and he's got a big heart. And Anthony Yarde hasn't shown that he's got that heart yet, not because he hasn't had to. Not saying he hasn't got it, but he hasn't had to show it. So I don't know. I don't know what way I think that fight would go. To be honest, you'd probably favour Yarde because he's undefeated, he's fresher, and he's looked really impressive so far.
Matthew, thank you for talking to us, and you can tune in next week for more #ToeToToe or check out iTunes for the podcast.
Sky Sports. Feel it all.